This is a workflow over here. This is an app. This is consulting. To me, it's all the same thing. It's just a solution to get them from A to B. It just so happens to be the tool that gets them there. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's a vehicle.
So far, what I'm hearing, Doc, is that you help these two brands to do their business in a smarter way. But what I'm not hearing right now is how you have helped their branding and how you have helped them come up with a flagship product. And if you didn't do it for these two brands, and if you've done it for all of your other clients, can you tell us a bit more about that one?
Yeah. So I can't tell you the AppSumo one that's about to come out, but I will just let you know that it's going to be a signature product. I cannot tell you, but that is going to be easily a 7 to 8 figure product coming out. That's all I can say. So yes,
you helped with that. Helped with that.
Yeah. And so we'll get that one for Vayner. That one actually it's in two different ways. So the way I view signature products is, number one is either giving you the reach that you want to be perceived with. So that signature product, everyone knows something about you. And so it becomes your, like, that lamp, everyone knows you. Or the other side is it makes you the most money in your business. That's like the stair steps of all the products to get to your signature product that either becomes that gateway or it's the most expensive in your repertoire. For Vayner, podcasting and live streaming, to get people to understand, that is, think about this. The reason most people know Gary is because he created multiple show formats. The Ask Gary V show is a show format that he then just micro content by it. Now, a lot of the people from Vayner Sports and other entities like Sasha Group, people want to have that same experience. And tons of times people say, I want a podcast. And how many times do you hear people say, well, just make a podcast, do all these things?
Yeah.
And you know this better than most, right? How many people actually, out of the people that say, like, oh, I've been thinking about doing a podcast for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And then they don't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. That's
right?
true.
It's like either them actually understanding how to do it, having someone keeping them accountable, what's going on with those. So creating the Gary V content model 2.0, giving it to smaller businesses that aren't Fortune 500 that can work with VaynerMedia, and giving them a clear solution of how they can do that. That's what we did for the 4Ds alumni for VaynerMedia. There is no excuse, because listen, to work with the entry level of VaynerMedia, entry level is $30K a month. So when there's a big difference, even some that are like, I just crossed 7 figures a year, they can't afford, for the most part, $30K a month to be doing marketing.
Right.
But if they understood how they could structure their content in a way for them to make more money, to become more prolific, then they can work with Sasha Group, then they can work with VaynerMedia. Now we're changing the game. So creating that workflow for podcasting, I'll put it this way. Although our name is not attached, and they say this is Doc Williams and Brand Factory under VaynerMedia, before we show that workflow for podcast creation and live streaming for their clients, it didn't exist for that company.
Right.
So for us, that's our stamp working there. Now, that one is right over there, but I can give you an example. My favorite one, another signature product we did for a client, if you want to hear.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Shoot.
So we worked with a sports agent that represented a lot of high profile NFL, so American football, and she She just had tons of clients. One of the premier running backs from the NFL, and she was an agent, and she's like, listen, the thing that I'm trying to solve is I have to manage all of these athletes, and I've got to be on the phone all day. I'm trying to manage their contracts. I wish there was an app where they could go on, just like Instagram, search
Mm-hmm.
for opportunities, sign up, and they could actually then make their own negotiations with the brands directly.
Yeah.
And I could manage them. I could onboard other brands on the platform. I could manage my athletes. And basically, I would be the holder and manager of all these things, but I would cut out the middleman. And
Yeah.
so we made that app for her.
Mm-hmm.
And that totally changed her business right there. So a lot of times the signature product, or signature service, it looks very different client to client.
Mm-hmm.
It's just getting them, what do they want to stand out for, and how do they want to move with their business? Like, how do they want to operate? And then we build that signature product for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you built that app for her. You had to develop it, code it, design it, everything, quality assurance. Wow. So that is the first time that I'm hearing that you actually, created an application. So for VaynerMedia, it's a workflow. For AppSumo, it's more of helping them to know which apps are good, which apps are not so good, and hearing it from a consultant rather than a direct hire. That's a lot of
Exactly right.
stuff you're doing, Doc. That's a lot of stuff. So take us through the process. How do you identify what the brand of a certain brand is, or what the flagship product, supposed flagship product of a supposed brand or company is? And are most of your clients, when you start with them, are they mostly lost in a fog so that they don't have a signature product yet?
For the most part, yes. But I mean, it really starts with, I just want to know what your audience cares about. I find that so many brands, they've already got in the back of their mind what their product should be. And they're like, we're just going to run with it. And I'm just like, okay, so did you ask anyone? Like, where's your user testing, or where is this? And have, very few can back up where they get their user data, because I feel like a lot of brands, and this is me included, it's really hard to get a reality check because you're usually too close to your product or your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just comes to, okay, first of all, what are you trying to do with your company? Are you trying to scale? Are you trying to make a certain amount of money? Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. And then number two is like, what does your audience really want? And I know that sounds like so basic, but I cannot tell you how many times I will say, like, okay, can you prove that? And they can't bring user data that aligns with, they are saying this in
Mm-hmm.
product reviews, and you are building what they're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts. That's where it starts. And another thing too, you know, I'll go back to the podcast analogy. So many times, I mean, it's me too. Like, you see it. And although it seems like I'm all over the place with different business things, like shiny object syndrome is so real, especially for businesses. And so a lot of times people will be like, oh, we've got to develop an app. Like, you know how
Mm-hmm.
many times I hear like, oh, we need an app. And I'm like, so what are
Yeah.
you going to do with it? I'm like,
Yeah.
you could have done that with a chatbot. You don't need an app for that. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people they fall in love with, this is what they're doing in the industry. And I just want to say, like, hey, I don't want to think about like technology, like, where are you here and how can I get it here? And that's why it looks so different. Like, this is a workflow over here. This is an app. This is consulting. To me, it's all the same thing. It's just a
Yeah.
solution to get them from A to B. It just
Mm-hmm.
so happens to be the tool that gets them there. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah. It's
And
just a
and
vehicle.
that's it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle. So hopefully I answered your question, but it's observation. It's
Yeah.
observation. That's it.
So what I got from what you said is more of about listening to their audience, observing the audience and getting a hold of that data. I'm not sure where you get that data, but I'm imagining you're probably getting it from analytics dashboards of their Instagram or social media platforms, or their Google Analytics as well.
For the
So
most part, yes. For the most part.
cool. So getting a hold of that data and then just breaking it down, analyzing how they can serve this audience with what they currently have, and then going for that. Is that right? Is that accurate?
For the most part, yes. It helps me. It helps informing the decision. And then I like to do mini tests where it's called like an MVF. It's a minimal viable funnel.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to, in real time, I ask one of the clients or a salesperson, I ask them to have a real conversation and try to sell whatever they're trying to do in real time and try to get them to sell it. And if the person says no, I want to know why. Like, just keep asking them why. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this can work for anything, but I want real conversation because usually what I find is how they talked in a real conversation is very different than what's on their website.
Right.
And so I need to have natural language to see if this is going to work.
Right. So you have it recorded and you listen to it again. MVF, minimum viable funnel. That's the first time I'm hearing it. Is it an invention, Doc?
No, I wish. I know Ty. So there's this company called marketplan.io, and I think Ty created it. It's the first time I ever heard it. And I credit him because I use it all the time. But like, that's the biggest thing with my students and other marketers. Like, they want these huge funnels. And I'm like, I want to see how fast you can sell something. And not in
Mm-hmm.
a sales conversation, like, I want you to message 5 people, like 5 of your friends that need this. And I want you to have a real conversation and see if you can sell it in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't, explain to me what went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because they didn't value it? Because you didn't say the right words? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I do with every single company. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, I mean, this is no secret. I mean, I talked to AppSumo about this. They asked me, like, what could we do better last year? And I told them, I was like, listen, I think you have too many deals. I think you're promoting too many. And I feel like people are getting paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That was the main critique of 2019.
Really interesting.
Because think about this. I mean, because Apple, look at their website. They're making less choices. Look at Apple's website versus Dell. When you get too
Yeah.
many choices, people don't convert. And
Yeah.
so, but how many times did it take? How do they find out? Well, after they listened to people for months and months, but it was every conversation I heard, people were like, I can't tell the difference. I have this product that looks like this product, this logo that looks like this logo.
Yeah.
It seems like it does the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it's just really hard to know if
Mm-hmm.
you're working day in and day out, you don't see those things. So when
Yeah.
we're with brands, it's usually cloudy because they think they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes I know what I'm doing, but that's why I hire consultants all the time to do evaluations on our business because
Yeah.
it's really hard. It's really easy to lose sight of it very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We get blindsided, right? Because we fall in love too much with our product, with whatever it is we're doing. We are creatures of routine as well, and we're used to doing this. And sometimes we don't even know why we're doing it anymore, but we're just used to doing it. So why change it? Why fix what's not broken? But in reality, it is a little bit broken, right? So AppSumo, you mentioned that they have disintegrated into giving out too many products. That's very interesting. And it is a very valid argument that people do get paralyzed. If I go to a restaurant and the menu is just so, if there's so many things in the menu, I also get paralyzed and I don't really know what to order. And that's pretty much for everyone, right? So,
I agree. I agree.
Doc, thank you so much for this time. I learned a lot. Minimum viable funnel. I'm definitely going to look that up. And since I'm also launching an online course this May, I am going to try it out. I'm going to call a couple of friends of mine and see if they're going to actually buy it at the certain price that I'm thinking about. Now, Doc, what is it that you're working on that you're excited about? Maybe you can share it to our audience, and where can they find you? What's your Spotify podcast title? Maybe they can look you up and follow you there.
Yeah. So what I'm excited about, and thank you for having me. I'm excited about this project. It's called Build with Me. So this came out of being in lockdown and quarantine. Well, just shelter in place. What's going on with COVID? So I started just using AppSumo deals mainly, but I use one tool to build 3 businesses every single night. So I said, if I can do this for 40 days straight, I'm just going to see it as a challenge, but I can help a lot of people. I'm going to give away all the information for free. And if
Mm-hmm.
anyone wants to stream or be online with me at the same time, let's do it. So
Mm-hmm.
started that project. I think I'm on episode 38. So I've been doing it 38 days straight. So I'm really super
Wow.
excited about that. And, that has opened up a lot of interesting opportunities with our business just by doing that in streaming. And, anyone can find me on Spotify and Stitcher and all that stuff. It's the Doc Williams podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if they go to YouTube, they'll see the show Build With Me, or go to Build With Doc, Build With DOC Doc. So
Mm-hmm.
buildwithdoc.com, and they'll get all of the different episodes. You can watch it. You don't have to opt in. You can watch all 40 episodes right there, and
Fantastic.
we'll see what goes on.
No funnel, huh? Just watch it straight up.
Yeah. Well, listen, this no funnel, bro, it is insane because I build like 2.5 hours of video. I'm getting a retention time of people watching on average an hour and 7 minutes each video.
Wow. That's huge. That's a
It's
big
insane.
deal.
I
That's
never would have
amazing.
thought it. And I was like, and I'm building the website on Notion.
That's amazing.
Notion. So I was like, it was everything that I don't do. I always build in WordPress. I always have
Yeah.
all of these opt-ins. I'm like, I'm just going to put this up and see what happens. I
Yeah.
would never have imagined that it went this way. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Fantastic, Doc. So, are you on Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter?
So you'll see me on Twitter. It's underscore Doc Williams, all one. So underscore DOC Williams. On Instagram, I'm there. You'll see some of our profiles of like the clients we work with. I'm never
Mm-hmm.
really on IG. My clients are on IG, so I have to be
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
Yeah.
I always talk to people on Twitter. Twitter is my main platform.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, I only have to manage clients and their accounts on Facebook. So if
Mm-hmm.
anyone needs me, I'm just on Twitter and I'll answer any question.
Fantastic, Doc. Thank you so much for being here. We are better for it.
Thank you so much for having me.